Welcome to the Tourism Hub podcast, a podcast devoted to you and your excellence, providing inspiration and education for the entrepreneurs, experience makers, and excellence seekers of our industry to take your tourism business and career to a whole new level. And I am your host, Despina Karatias.
Relax.
I'm here with Charles, the Managing Director of Peninsula Hot Springs. Charles, thank you so much for being my very, very special VIP guest on Tourism Hub today.
Thanks, Despina.
Charles, for anyone, if there is anyone out there in the universe that hasn't heard about Peninsula Hot Springs, can you give us just before we go into how Peninsula Hot Springs came to be, just give us an idea of where we are and what Peninsula Hot Springs is today.
Okay. Well, Peninsula Hot Springs is located on the Mornington Peninsula, so it's on the sort of the southern end of the Mornington Peninsula, near Rye and St Andrews, next door to Moona Links. It's a natural hot spring bathing centre with spas and restaurants and massage rooms, but the core of it is natural thermal hot water that comes from 637 metres underground and comes to the surface, and then we pour it into the various pools.
Now, I've been here quite a number of times before I met or knew or heard that it was Charles behind Peninsula Hot Springs. I remember being at a Victoria tourism industry conference and function, and I remember turning to the person next to me, "Are you telling me that Peninsula Hot Springs is privately owned?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's the owner there." And I was so inspired by that. I don't know why, I just assumed that it wasn't owned by someone or that it started by people. And then I was really curious about your story, and after hearing how it all came to be, I would love you to share that, your big kind of aha moment of this is what I want to do and this is what I want to pursue in my life and my journey.
Yeah, well, for me it all started when I was living and working in Japan, and I was actually over there in the early 1990s. It was 1992. And I had been working in the international trade industry, used to export produce and from Australia, so wines and cheeses and various in the food industry. And I was sent across to Japan to work for the company I was working with, and on a Asia Pacific fellowship. So it was a federal government fellowship that I was on. And I'd been studying Japanese and had a bit of a headache, and the friends I was studying with said, "Let's go to a hot spring." And I said, "A hot spring? Okay, I'll go to in the countryside." And so we went along, and it was a place called Kusatsu, which was a couple of hours out of Tokyo, and it's a whole town of hot springs. So there's probably 20 different hot springs around the town, and it's got lots of different accommodations and restaurants and bars, and and it's all a whole town on health and wellbeing. It's been around for hundreds of years. And we jumped into one of the pools, which was sort of at the north end of town, and it was towards the end of winter, but there was still snow everywhere, all on the ground, and there was snow in the trees. And it was a traditional Japanese bathing experience. So you had the male and female sides of the bathing area. It was outdoors, and you were naked, which is the way that people bathe in Japan. And it was an absolute moment. It was like an epiphany. I jumped in the water, and you just felt this natural connection with the environment. You looked up at the snow and the trees and up a valley, and just felt this connection of, I felt like one with the environment, and it was totally blissfully relaxing. And the first thing that came to mind was, why don't we have this in Australia? We really should have this at home. And took me actually back to my childhood, which a lot of it had been spent on the Mornington Peninsula. I was born and bred in Melbourne, but we had a farm on the peninsula, and I spent a lot of time with my friends down on the beaches here. And that feeling of relaxation that you get when you're on a beach with your friends in the afternoon in summer, and it's that sort of those balmy summer days where the time just drifts and you just feel fantastic. This was the same experience that I was having there, but here I was surrounded by snow. I was in a totally sort of foreign environment, and yet I was having that same sense of blissful relaxation. So I sort of felt that Australians really could have this. And that while in Victoria, one of our big problems was that there was a huge amount of seasonality at that time of the year, and there weren't many products for winter. And here was a product designed for winter, which would be perfect. And so that's when I had the first epiphany and had a dream that maybe we should have that culture and that experience in Australia.
Wow. Funny, my husband proposed to me at a hot springs in Yoshino in Japan, which I haven't thought about that for a long time. So I know about hot springs in Japan. That was a long time ago. He lured me there for the World Cup for soccer. And a lot of people have ideas as entrepreneurial seizures, say, why could we? But then actually taking action on that is the key thing, from having this amazing wow experience to actually taking that first step into committing to, I'm going to do this. Can you take us back to that moment from making this or saying this is now real?
Look, real is something in your imagination, actually, to a large extent. And I think it was real as a dream and as a passion from that moment on. So, and that was back in 1992. Now, I didn't find out there was hot water even in Australia until 5 years later. But I had started, from that moment on, I started visiting hot springs. I was living in Japan. At that time, I lived for a year and a half, and then I came back to Australia for a year, and then went back for another 3.5 years. So I had a sort of total 5 years in Japan in that sort of general time. But I started visiting lots of hot springs, started doing research and thinking about how it could be. And I even asked some hydrogeologists in Japan whether there was hot water in Australia. And they, at that time, said, no, Australia's very old and it's flat, it doesn't have earthquakes. And no, there's very little chance there's hot springs in Australia. But that still didn't perturb me. I was thinking, well, the bathing experience could be good, and maybe we have to build more indoor experiences or change, So I kept on with it. And I think what makes the difference between doing and not doing is just your passion and your perseverance. And if you've got an idea, you just keep at it. And, throughout the story, which I'm sure we'll talk about more of it, but, it has been one of a lot of time waiting, a lot of patience and perseverance and, believing in the passion. But you keep testing it as you're going, and you try and do it in little steps. When I say that in our example, nobody had really understood what hot spring bathing was at all. So we were really creating a whole new segment of tourism for Australia. And yet in Japan, it's been there for thousands of years. In China, it's huge. In Europe, it had been around for a long time. The American Indians have been using it for eternity. In fact, I found out recently that the oldest business in the world is a Japanese hot spring, a place called Kyokan, and it's been operating for nearly 1,400 years.
Wow.
From the same family, 46 generations of the same family.
Wow. Wow. With your international trade hat on at the time and tourism, is this something you had in mind, or is tourism something that you've grown into? Is that in the beginning, was this, we need this as a going back to a visitor experience, or this will be a great tourism attract? Was that something that
I actually thought of it as something it wasn't necessarily specifically tourism in my mind. It was an experience, absolutely. And my core target market had always been, and still is, Victorians, people living at home. It's a local market. It's something that the community, I wanted to bring to our community for our community. Now, visitors are most welcome, obviously, and we, the very basis of the concept was about people connecting with nature, which is like the Japanese bathing experience was very much about that. But we weren't trying to do Japan. What we were trying to do is Australian nature, and what we learnt from Japan, and it was actually reverse engineering in a sense. Japan has been so good at grabbing other people's ideas and making them better. And what I've been trying to do is grab Japan's fantastic idea and look at how they're doing it and make it better. And I thought, well, it's not going to be, we don't want to bring Japan to Australia because it's only one culture. And Australia is a country made of many cultures. So soon after I found out that there was hot water in Victoria, which was a chance conversation we'll talk about in a little while. But soon after I did that, I started traveling the world, looking at how various cultures of the world approached this gift of natural hot springs and how they brought that into their culture, into their communities for experiences, but also just for life, for enhancing life and improving life. And so between then and now, I've been to 36 countries on specific hot spring research missions, looking at the cultures, meeting people, creating alliances, creating connections, and then bringing back ideas and concepts and blending it into our experience that we offer here.
And certainly something I admire about your business is just that constant innovation. And certainly what resonates every time that I've been here, that you really see an eclectic group, like there's all different types of people from different cultures that enjoy the hot springs. And I know for myself, I've come here with my family, I've come here while I'm pregnant, I've come here with grandparents, we've all come and enjoyed the same thing at the same time. And it's amazing for anyone that hasn't been here. So in terms of overcoming challenges at the time, so you had the farm out in Mornington Peninsula and actually discovering that there is natural hot springs here. How did that come to be?
Well, I was in Japan again.
Yeah.
So I left that Japanese trading company that I've been working with and then joined the Australian Embassy in Tokyo. So I was working over there in the trade department, helping Australian exporters in the food industry get into the Japanese market. And I was over there, and one day after work, I had a beer with the head of the Victorian State Office, and we were just having a chat. So it was just a casual beer, and he said, "Look, you're a bit too entrepreneurial to be a diplomat all your life. So what do you want to do with your life?" And I said to him, "I'd love to do hot springs." And it was then that he said, he remembered that 14 years beforehand, the Department of Minerals and Energy had done test drilling right across the state in Victoria looking for water because, Australia, the country of droughts and flooding rains, but the droughts in particular, we've always got these water issues. And so they needed to know where the water was. And so they were drilling right across the state and they came across right near our land that we ended up buying. They did a test drilling program and they came across this hot water. And it ended up in a report, and the report was sent across to this man, Kevin Knowles, in Japan, who was the head of the Victorian State Office, in the hope that they might find somebody to invest in it. Maybe we can attract some investment attraction in hot springs. They like hot springs in Japan. Now, nothing happened at that time, but 14 years later, he still remembered the report and he mentioned it to me. And I, of all the places, I had spent my childhood here, and of all the places you could find where, there was water, where my dream could come true, it was actually in the place of my childhood. And in fact, my family have been here on the Mornington Peninsula since 1842. So, I'm seventh generation in Australia, and our family's been here. The Briars, which is an old homestead here on the a historical homestead, is our old family home, and so it was like a real sort of homecoming, a bit of a
Wow! If you haven't gotten goosebumps listening to that, I don't know what will. And what an amazing. We talk about connection, being connected to Earth, the connection with the history from Japan, and the connection to family. And then having that connection to your story, that's remarkable, but also it was meant to be. It was totally meant to be. Now, something that you had shared once, I want to talk about your concept with, you had shared this idea of co-opetition. I'd like to talk to you about that. Also, something that you had shared around, it was around the time that you celebrated 10 years at Peninsula Hot Springs. You said in Japanese culture, in business culture, you're just starting. If you've made it to 10 years, you're just at the beginning. And I really loved that. Can you share? Because you think after 10 years and the success you have really worked hard at and achieved, that you would still think we're just getting started. Can you just shed some insight around that?
All right. Well, I'll talk about the 10 years before co-opetition.
Okay, great.
There are two distinct stories in there.
Yeah, great.
Now, the 10 years, and it's just a saying they have in Japan, which is, it takes 10 years before your business begins. And really the idea of that, I think, is that you after 10 years, you will have gone through many cycles. So you would have gone through the 4 seasons 10 times. You would have had the possibility of those droughts and those flooding rains. And, you look at 10 years ago, we're in the middle of a drought. Now we're the rain. If we'd waited one more year, we wouldn't have had to spend $24 billion on a desalination plant, which sits there and rusts and costs us $1 billion a year as a state. And that we could have been spending $500 million more on tourism every year. And how good would that be? But anyway, but 10 years actually gives you some level of perspective that your market likes your product. There's enough people over enough period of time that they like your product. And that's not about tourism. That's actually about any business, whether you're selling cheese or you're making wines but if you're operating and you keep going for 10 years, that's a really good indication that you're going to be around for you've got an opportunity to stay around for a long time, because there's a demand and there's a market for whatever it is you're doing. So that's the 10-year cycle. And in terms of co-opetition, that's just the idea of creating community. Like in any business, it's about you're only as strong as your community, and whether your community includes your staff and includes your customers, but it also includes everybody else around you, because it's like the ripple effect. A drop in the water will spread out, and it affects all the water around it, and it's all connected. So all the people, for example, we employed 278 people, I think it is, as of last week. I think it was 278 people. Now all those people are paying rent or buying their houses, or they've got kids at school, or but the flow-on effect, this economic benefit that flows from our business here, it has a huge ripple effect, and we find it all the time. People here, they meet each other here and get married. We have lots of people having babies. They have a lot of we employ this is part of the ripple effect, but about 80% of our staff are female. So, which is just fantastic, in a region where there's lots of tradies and lots of work for traditional work for men. Not that obviously people can do both, and there's no limitation. But this is a place where it's got a strong sort of attraction for women. So it's fantastic being able to be an employer of for women, because it helps build a connection and community. But it also means that we have a lot of staff off on maternity leave.
And keeping this, because you really get a sense of a family business, and then I hear today 270 staff, and keeping that, I guess, as a small business and growing to that level of staff and keeping the culture, is that how? Could you share managing those dynamics of keeping everyone aligned and connected?
Look, and that is a continual process. I find I'm spending more and more of my time on the culture story and telling stories, and it will be different. It has to be different. So it's not, when we started we had 35 staff. Now it's 278, so it's a very big difference. Obviously the way you grow, there are steps in the growth process, and we're just going through another one now, and every day you go through it. But what does happen is you have more people, is you have to have more people supporting the people. So there's a lot more sort of administration support, but for example, one of the elements that we've evolved is our what was traditionally called HR, human resources, and we've got 2.5 people who work full-time in that area, but we now call it people and culture. So it's not actually a place where humans are resources, it's actually we are creating culture, and it's all about the people. So even just that little subtle shift in the word, it is actually very deep in the meaning in what we're trying to create. So
I love that so much. It is. It's so subtle, but it can, with even just say people and culture to human resources, has the same element as you jump into one of those hot springs experiences. Just I really love that, Charles, and I think that's something. Sometimes change doesn't have to be massive. A small change in words and how we describe, I think that's really key.
But we do
That's
keep
a great
working. I mean,
insight.
there are other specific things that we're doing. I mean, we do, team member of the quarter, for example. So every quarter we put on a function for so we don't live just for the Christmas function. We do it 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity to check in again. And then, you do various things, where there are staff prizes, where the staff vote for who's, putting in the best effort. And so there are some of these small, subtle things that you're doing. But even just an opportunity to get together in a social, relaxed fashion where we provide the food and drinks and we enjoy a night together. Now, we do that every quarter. We're evolving that, and starting to get other teams involved in doing the catering and starting to get so they, there's more participation in that fun. And so it's, you try and not make it so work is just work. It's work is life. And, try and move beyond the idea of, work as a way to earn money only. That should be just a byproduct. It should actually be something of giving to your community and giving to your customers and giving to places, to people, so their experiences are exceptional. And then, of course, you do get the money. And you need, we always want to pay our staff higher than the average, and that's always our goal. And we are always higher than the average. And so, that's
It's one of these things that I hope seeing just a little bit of an insight into the back end of Peninsula Hot Spring, that this is something that you do. It is unique. Even saying one thing from people and culture to having 4 staff gatherings and recognising people 4 times a year, it is a really great thing to do. And I love you. Really, connectivity is translating into everything. It's fantastic. And partnerships and connecting. I ran a partnership marketing workshop, and fabulous Ashley came as part of that. And we did a little interview, because I think partnership marketing, when I think about it, every time I've come here, and I remember seeing the brochures on the wall, and there you are showcasing everything else you can do, other experiences you can do in the region. Recognize how important has that been in your journey and connecting to your community in that way, in your collaborations within the local community, because it become a real key player for a lot of the small business community, as well as the 270 staff that you employ.
Yeah, look, the relationships with our community is, it's paramount around what we are and the purpose. We are trying to create community, and you don't create community in a vacuum. You actually do it with the community, so engaging with people. It makes life more enjoyable, because you know your neighbours, and you walk around the streets and you say hi to people. So you're not in your own little bubble, or as much as you can be. We're all in our own bubbles to a certain extent, but you're trying to break out of that bubble and work together. It has lots of benefits. Apart from those personal ones, it even just in a SEO and how your web works. If you look up the word Peninsula on Google, you'll find that we're up at the top of the natural search. So you have somewhere like Peninsula Hotel who have to buy the word Peninsula to be at the top. They've bought it, and they bought our name, and they're sitting at the top. So, But one of the big reasons why we're able to be at the top is because we've got all these partnerships. And the requirements we have with our partnerships is that we'll put it on our website, and they put it on their website, and we both point to each other. And all the search engines love seeing real connections. They love real connections. They don't want to have all the people who play games and write extra, do fake things to push you up the rankings, because you're forever chasing your tail. If you have real connections and you do real packages with real people, the Googles and all the search engines see it, and then they go, this is a place, a hub. This is a connection. And, So it's actually got some byproduct benefits, just even on how your website is found, which, as we all know, is a very, very important part of the whole marketing mix. But the other thing is that it helps with the customer experience, because we want them, when they come to the region, we realise that the hot springs is a great thing to do with other things. So if you go horse riding, and then people come and bathe. If you go bike riding, they can come and bathe. If you go walking, or you go sailing, or you go swimming with the dolphins, or all of these things, we have packages. Play a game of golf, do anything, and you end up in the pools afterwards and ease your tired muscles. You jump in the waters here, and the waters are high in magnesium. So the magnesium, which a lot of people spray on magnesium now. They have magnesium oil, they drink it. But actually, your biggest organ is your skin, and your skin absorbs. And we know that very well because you have things like nicotine patches or morphine patches, or so it's very well proven now. 10, 15 years ago, people didn't think it happened, but now it's well known that your skin is your biggest organ, and it does absorb. And when you're lying in the hot pools here and it's high in magnesium, you're just sucking up this mineral pill, and you're improving your body. So so it does actually fit beautifully well with all of these other activities. And my dream of a perfect day is when you can do three things. It might be horse riding, and then come to the hot springs, and then go out for a nice dinner. And you go, lovely. Or you go for a walk, an indigenous walk with Lionel down the back beach, then come to the hot springs, and then go out for dinner. There's usually a meal included somewhere there. Back. And
because I came here normally I've come here when everybody comes here on a weekend, but I came here during the week one morning, and it was when you just first opened, and it was just magic, and it was by myself. I
hope you can't do that anymore. Yeah. We're actually open now at 7 a.m. So we were opening at 7:30. We're opening up at 7, so we're opening up a little bit earlier. But we do get quite a lot of people in the morning as well.
Yeah. Oh, look, I had to almost call Audrey today and say I can't find a parking. I couldn't find. It's a testament to just it's definitely worth the drive from wherever you're coming in the state to come and visit the hot springs, as someone that has definitely enjoyed it multiple, and I will continue to. With tourism in particular, there's a lot of specifically and particularly the small business community in finding value in joining a regional tourism organisation, in joining a Victorian Tourism Industry Council. As someone that has really been through the journey, and now being a chair of the board of the Victoria Tourism Industry Council, some advice around your core value of connecting and partnership and community to these operators that can find it challenging to see the value in coming to the party in these things and showing up and putting skin in the game. Can you share some?
Sure. Yeah. Look, I think it's innate in me that I wanted to do this place as being part of the community, and you want to put in, roll up your sleeves and put in. So, nearly since the very beginning, I've been sitting on boards or sitting on things, and it's just, I always see it as part of my community responsibility and to try and work together. And sure, sometimes it's, it's hard to see the picture, but there's so much stuff, so many things that happen to grow a whole industry that, it is that it's an essential role that there's a coordinating body. And if this is just to talk to the government, but it's not, there's somewhere like VTIC, for example, it runs tourism awards. Now that's one area where, we've been involved in the awards for maybe 14 years or something like that, since, more than 14, 15, 16 years maybe. And I've always used them as a way to self-reflect. It gives me an opportunity to go back and have a look at my business and think, how can I improve it, and what can I do better? And so at the beginning, the relevance of going on about the awards is, one, because VTIC runs it. So this is actually, it puts in all the effort to actually run it. So this is one thing that an industry association does, create an opportunity. But this is for me, the opportunity has been really important, because at least once a year, apart from running your business plan, it gives me a chance to really look back at the operations and what we're doing and how we benchmarking against other players in the industry. It gives me a chance to have some peers review our plans and give us some feedback on what we're doing, what we could be doing better. And we've slowly gone through different categories to try and sharpen our saw or improve our skills in these different areas. So we went through the health and wellbeing category, and then we went through the tourist attraction category, and now we're in the middle of the ecotourism. And so it's really helped me focus my team as well. So when we've got a larger team, but even if you've got a smaller team, it helps focus yourself or your team. Even if you're the team, it still helps you focus on those areas of your business and make them better. So, right at the moment, we're doing a whole lot more on composting, a lot more on solar power, a lot more on, there's our Indigenous connections and more tours, more activities that relate to our connection to the environment. Now, we're doing that because our whole product is like that, but we want it to be even better. So you keep going back and looking at it and reflecting it and then getting the team behind it. And so the awards have really helped us become a better product and us research our own offering and making that experience better.
Fantastic. And this is something I just admire so much. A lot of businesses can go in and win once and then go, I don't want to do that again. You've not only won, you've achieved Hall of Fame status. And I love that we see Peninsula Hot Springs in a new category. Just that whole keeping yourself green and growing constantly is shows such great leadership for our industry, for others to follow that path, because it is possible to go in a new category, and it is possible to go and win 3 times, but it's not just great for the trophy, it's actually helping my business consider things that I didn't before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the primary thing.
Yeah.
Because we're busy anyway.
Yes.
So we don't actually need a little bit of media that you get from winning. It's great and it's nice for our team, for the team. But really the most important thing for me is the self-reflection. It is the opportunity to go back and look at your business, look at your, the what you're doing and improve it. The other main thing, the reason why associations I find are good is because you get to meet people. So it is that networking opportunity. It's the opportunity to talk to other people and have relationships with other businesses, and get the connections. And this provides an opportunity to that. Obviously, you could pick up the phone, and I do it very often. If I say I want to meet somebody, I pick up the phone and talk to them. So you tend to go straight there, but often you meet other people at events, and our current general manager, Brooke Ramage, who was the founder of Golden Door, which is a beautiful health retreat in Queensland. He worked at Camp Eden as their first general manager. He's run Carburetor Lodge, all these health and wellbeing things. I met him at an industry conference in New Zealand in 2000, so 17 years ago. Wow. And I was telling him about my dream for this place. It was just a plan. I showed him this plan, the one I've got right here, which is the master plan that we had, and said, I want to build this. What do you think? And now, 17 years later, he's been with us for the last 2 years, and he's helping us weave this beautiful health and wellbeing story in. And he's one of Australia's absolute icons and leaders in the health and wellbeing industry. And over the next couple of years, you're going to see a real transformation in our offering, a deepening of the offering. So not only can you come for just lying in the hot pools and just doing that, which is absolutely you can, but you'll be able to come and do more classes, more yoga classes, more nutrition and health and movement and, all of these other things which will be possible. And people will be able to opt into it. And then you'll be able to stay at the accommodations and do wellbeing programs and lots of things. So, and that was done through association. So it's only up to what you make of it. So when you are at those functions, it doesn't come to you. You've got to go out and show them your plan or talk to people about your dreams. And you find that people are very responsive.
I love that you've mentioned that, because you can become really overwhelmed and insular and in our own little world, but actually just taking the time out to show up to these things, you're always going to come out learning something new or meeting someone new. And another amazing connectivity story to say, here you showed Brooke your plans and now he's the general manager of Peninsula Hot Springs. Second time I got goosebumps in your little story. So what's getting you out of bed right now? What's getting you out of bed and pumped to face the day?
it's so many things.
If you could choose.
Well, right at the moment, we've got 7 construction projects on. So we're going through a very big state of change. And as of next month, we'll have another 3 big ones starting. So these include things like we've got the whole new car park going in. So we're actually sealing our old car park because we just need to.
You do definitely need car parking.
And we're expanding the car parking. We're putting in a big amphitheatre area. So we've got an area which has got 7 thermal pools on the top of this sort of amphitheatre, and there'll be terraced, stone terraced seats going down to a lake, and over the other side of the lake's a stage. And on that stage, you'll be able to play music, or the terraces are wide enough to be able to do yoga on. So we'll be able to have like 50 people doing yoga with a guru or instructor on the stage. Or you can just lie in the hot pools. The hot pools have speakers in them, so you can actually float about 100 people and be able to have people coming and talking to them underwater. So you have your ears underwater and you listen to the whole sound. So you have this whole soundscape experience. There's a new ice cave and saunas. So we've got some big saunas going in, 30-person saunas. So we'll be able to really embrace the Scandinavian and sort of Finnish and Swedish bathing traditions, and we'll have sauna masters who will start doing sauna mastering, have an ice cave, so a minus 25-degree room and a cool room next door to that, so people can really do this sort of Wim Hof style. So Wim Hof is the Iceman, but these hot cold therapies which are really good for blood circulation, really good for health. The cold in particular. You look at all the AFL footy clubs, and they're always having ice baths. It is so good for your immune system, for your metabolism, for your blood circulation, your health and self-healing is really good in this cold water. So we're having these cold plungers, and there's a couple of new food areas, a whole food bowl going in. We've got new pools in the spa centre. There's lots and lots of different things which are happening at the moment. So in the next, and they're actually coming online, nearly every week. We've got another little thing coming online, and then the bigger ones towards the end of this year and early next year, we'll find there's some very big openings happening.
Wow. Talk about next level. That is so exciting. We'll have to do a part 2. I've got so many questions around that, but I know we're running out of time. If we could do just a really quick, excellent round with you, if that's okay. So launching your business in the very beginning, what was one thing that was holding you back? Time.
Time was the biggest one.
Time.
Yeah, we had to have patience because we originally started and thinking that we'll be open we bought the land in 97 and we thought, well, we'll open by 2000. We ended up opening in 2005. So there was, from when we bought the land until we were actually able to open, was 8 years. And within that, it wasn't, the council were pretty fine. That did take a couple of years, but in the scheme of all the waiting, it wasn't the biggest one. It wasn't finance. That each time we went out to try and find finance, you found it with about a year, so it wasn't really the finance. The biggest one for us was drilling. We're trying to drill, and the original driller said it would take 3 months, and it ended up taking 18 months. And as a result of that, it ended up losing our first investors because they didn't wait round, which was fair enough. If we couldn't dig a hole, how are we going to run a business?
Yeah.
But that wasn't their complaint. It was just that they had to put their money somewhere, and they couldn't just leave it in the bank waiting for a possible future business that wasn't happening. And so time, I think, was the biggest thing holding us back. And
marathon, not a sprint. Yeah. That will help a lot of businesses. This is for the long-term patience.
Look at our neighbour, the Eagle, the chairlift, Arthur's Seat chairlift, which is actually the gondola.
Yeah,
they took 10 years.
Yeah,
I thought ours was an eternity, and theirs an eternity plus 2 years.
Yeah. The best advice you've ever received?
The first one that came to mind, but I don't 100% use it, but somebody told me use this, which is your mind, and not this, your hands. Now, it made me keep on thinking that you always have to think about things. Now, I love using my hands. I'll get out and work in the garden, and I really find it enjoyable. And in the beginning stages, I was always, using my hands a lot because I couldn't afford to pay for anybody to do things. So, but I think, really always think about what you're doing and use your mind as much as you can and plan.
Because I love that. That's very inherent in that you've gone to 36 countries and always investing in research and in your planning, making informed decisions rather than sometimes we can be very emotive with, and sometimes that's a good thing, but certainly having a strategy and you've adapted a lot of research practices to back up what you're going to do next. Would that be fair?
Oh, absolutely. To say, yeah. No, we've got alliances with lots of organisations. We do a huge amount of work with RMIT. We're sponsoring a PhD from RMIT who's doing he's going to become a doctor of hot springs. So, and he's studying mental and physical health benefits that come from hot spring bathing, and he did a pre-study here a couple of years ago where he surveyed a bit over 4,000 clients and had some really profound findings from that. And now he's doing his PhD, but it's already been translated into surveys that are going out in 12 different languages, and it's going to be a global one. So it's really about this global connection. And, a lot of the people that I've met along my journey will be getting this survey, and will be trying to really connect the world culturally, but also, physically through this hot spring bathing experience.
It's incredible how much more I'm appreciating after our chat that there's so many medicinal and rehabilitative and wellness. It takes wellness to another level of actually being really, it's going to help you recover from whether it's an ailment or an illness, or there's much more benefits than just leisure. It's
a very nice way to go to the doctor.
Yeah, very, very nice way. A personal habit that contributes to your success. If you think something that you practice daily that you couldn't.
I don't know if I have a specific daily habit. I mean, I do always keep exercise in my routine, and I go up and down in terms of how often I do it. But I do skiing, I play some tennis, I go bike riding, I love walking. So a diversity of activities. I catching up with friends. So a bit of the me time as well. I think that's one of the biggest challenges is, finding balance and making sure I have enough time for it's not just me, but it's also we and my family and my wife, and, making that's because it's very easy to get totally obsessed, and they'll tell you I'm so totally obsessed, but you still have to find the time. So I try and have a holiday locked in always, if I can, so there's always a future holiday, even if it's 3 months or 4 months or 6 months ahead, that you have it in, because as soon as you've made the decision, you buy the air ticket and you're already on the holiday. You're already getting the benefit.
True. That is so true.
So I like to have that, because it means you get your head down and you keep doing all your work, get everything done, and you've got a target to look for. So it gives you a real focus of energy, and then you try and tick all those boxes, try and get everything out and done, and then you can go.
And then you can go. There's a light.
Yeah.
Is there an internet resource or an app that really helps you? Is there something that you use that can help with your time management and your productivity?
Well, I had an EA. I've got an EA recently. She's fantastic.
Oh, see, that's a resource. Yeah,
executive assistant.
Credit her. Yeah, Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah. Kelly. Yeah, that's the app. Yeah, human version.
Yeah, but I haven't had an assistant, but just recently in the last 6 months or 8 months, and I'm getting very used to it.
Yeah, you deserve it. Amazing. Do you love to read, and a favourite book?
I've always got books by my bed, but I've got a bigger pile than I ever get to read. My favourite book, look, it really depends on. I don't have one favourite book, but the one that's coming to mind right now. There's a great book, Victor Schauberger's Living Water, and this is an Austrian forester who was really looking at the energetics of water, and I was really inspired by that. I was given that book by a friend from Canada, and that talks about flow forms and water energetics, and like one of the cold experiences we're putting in here is going to be at 4 degrees, and he talked about 4 degrees being when water is at its densest and it's actually its strongest, and after that it starts to get closer to freezing, and then it actually gets lighter. It's less dense,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
quite funny, but it's actually as dense. The compressed molecules are as compressed as they ever get at 4 degrees. So, it's, I enjoy the science in that one, but, I'm going away up to northern Queensland, up to Port Douglas shortly, and I'll be bringing a book.
Open up.
I don't know which book it's going to be, but I'm bound to bring a couple.
Thank you. I'm so grateful you've taken the time to chat with me. You will inspire many. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Despina.
Thank you so much.
Relax.